My name's Rick Culleton, and I just made it to the 1 year mark of sobriety. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you probably have a good idea of what I've gone through physically. And today I was wanting to talk a little bit about the psychological changes that I went through when I quit drinking, and what the process is like. More for anybody else that's thinking about going through this on their own. I will say that, coming up on a year, it really was late in the year that I started to feel maybe great, for the lack of a better term, and that I was looking forward to all the things that I liked to do when I did drink. And there was a period of time at the beginning of sobriety when I didn't really feel like doing a lot of the things that I had enjoyed when I was drinking, and travel was a big one for me. And I would have this thought of, why would I bother going on a trip if I couldn't go to a bar? Like, what's the point, right? And it took a while to get past that. Ironically, as you're looking at this, I'm actually in Argentina, taking a trip that I had planned the day that I quit drinking. I bought a ticket to Buenos Aires and was flying on a Friday into Buenos Aires for a week, and decided to change my flight to go back to Texas and stay with my wife because I really didn't know what was in store. And I'm just now getting to the point where I'm really excited about traveling again, and that my life has taken a new shape that without alcohol is even more enjoyable than it was when I was drinking. And for a long time, I had a lot of things that I just didn't enjoy, because I felt that enjoyment would be lacking something without the alcohol. And some of that I never really got back into. I used to go out to eat a lot, and now looking back, I realized I was really going out to drink. And I would always sit at the bar, and I think I told myself that I like to sit at the bar, especially when I went alone, because I'd like to talk to the bartender, somebody there to converse with. And what I really wanted to do was be close to the alcohol, so that I never had an empty glass in front of me and I could keep the beer coming. And now that I don't do that, I don't go out to eat as much. I eat at home a lot more, and I don't frequent restaurants nearly as much. But aside from that, I've found so much more enjoyment in everything else that I do, and I'm excited to begin traveling again and going to see these places with a sober mindset, because you get so much more out of every day. And not only do you have more time in each day, because you're not bookending your day with happy hour. That was one of the things that would happen to me, is that everything had to be planned in a way that the day was over with by 5:30 or 6 o'clock, because otherwise life would interfere with my beer, and that was just not going to happen. So everything was scheduled to be done with at a certain time in the day. And now I've got a longer day. I can go out and do things at night that I wouldn't have normally even considered doing, whether it's just walking around a new town, or going to a museum after 6 p.m. or whatever it is that I think I might enjoy out there. Whereas before, that the day ended early, and it ended with a pint of beer, and that continued on into the night. And so that part took a while. This didn't happen right away. There was quite a bit of I won't say depression, but depressed mood about thinking about doing things that I didn't think were going to be quite as enjoyable, because I wasn't drinking. And then about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, say 10 months into sobriety, I really started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and really began to enjoy not just life as a whole more, but the nights most especially. Because that was a part of my life that didn't really exist for 38 years. Every single night of my life was intoxicated. That was just the way life was. I drank from 6 o'clock until I went to bed. Not so much so that I didn't know what I was doing, but it was definitely a numbness filter that went on top of everything. And now I use that time to read or listen to audiobooks or absorb content on subjects that I'm really interested in. And it's become one of my favorite parts of the day. I look forward to it. And anybody who has stopped drinking for even a short period of time knows that evening, if you are an evening drinker, is a very difficult time of the day. You approach it with anxiety, and what's 6 o'clock going to be like today? Am I going to, I'm going to sit in the corner with my thumb in my mouth because I don't have a drink? It's just, and it's different. It goes in cycles. It's not a linear progression where it continues to get better throughout. I had ups and downs through that cycle. I would think that about 6 months in, I hit an unexpected low point where I had even had thoughts like, what have I done? Was this really the right move for me? Is sobriety the right thing for me? I would be so much happier if I was drinking. And then that didn't last long. That was about a 2-week episode, but it surprised me where it came. I was prepared for whatever came, and I wasn't going to go back to drinking no matter what. But it was a surprise that that far in, that I was having thoughts of that nature that made me think, second guess myself still. I expected a lot of that in the beginning and had a lot of it. One of my favorites was the actual day that I had quit. The first morning when I woke up, as happy as I was with myself, I was cleaning my apartment in New York, and when I opened the dish cabinet, I saw beer glasses that I had brought from everywhere. Just one of this and one from here. And I looked at those and I thought to myself, how can I stop drinking? Look at all these beautiful glasses. And your mind will play some of the most horrible tricks on you when you're trying to do something good for yourself. You know that all of this is the right thing, but somewhere deep down, your body is looking for that comfort, the familiar, no matter how bad it is. And alcohol is much like a bad relationship. Someone who returns to a bad spouse, knowing they're going to be beaten. It's just a comfortable. Maybe that's not the right word to use in that situation, but a very familiar place. And you seek familiarity, even if it's not something that you think is good for you, or even if it's something that is definitely not good for you long term. You return to it, and there's so many examples of that. But for me, alcohol was like a bad habit, and I knew it, and I knew that I had to break it. And that moment, about 6 months in, when I began to think, what have I done to myself? Why am I sober? I'm not liking things like this. It was very much like being in the gym as you get into your second set of heavy deadlifts. It's like, why am I doing this? And this hurts. I should just go sit on the couch and grab a bowl of ice cream, and that helps. And that, I from coming from that mindset, it's like, I have to do this because it's good for me in the long term, and there's a short-term price to pay. But for anybody who's considering this, it's an important part of getting through the process, is knowing that there are going to be challenges throughout the entire time. And being that this is my first year sober, I can't tell you that I'm at the end and that I'm done with this forever, or that I'm never going to have another issue. But it certainly feels like that. I would, if anybody was to ask me, I would say that by the time you get to the 1-year mark, life is just golden, and you're really happy with your accomplishment, and you would never look back. I may have a different story in a year, but right now that is the way I feel. And it's also something that has grown to be my biggest accomplishment in life. I've done many things that I'm proud of. And yet, without a doubt, sobriety is my biggest accomplishment in all of life. And oddly enough, if someone had asked me what my biggest accomplishment was just a few years ago, it probably would have been to quit smoking. And that stuck with me a long time. I haven't smoked in 30 years or more. But that was still, I was very proud of myself for giving that habit up. And when I see someone else who smokes cigarettes and how they look and behave, and the time that they spend smoking and what they're doing to their body and everything else, I've always been very happy with myself for kicking that. Quitting smoking, I think, was more difficult than quitting drinking, to be honest. And it could be because it was the first real addiction that I had dealt with seriously. And I talked to a very good friend just yesterday who had someone that may have had something to do with the fact that I decided to get sober in the first place. When she disclosed to me yesterday that she had quit drinking for quite some time, longer than a year, and then had started drinking again, little by little, had a drink and then had another drink, and then thought she could handle it, and got back into a more serious alcohol addiction than she had in the first place. I think that to some degree I had that experience with smoking, in that I had quit smoking. I had had a cigarette with a friend a year or two after I'd quit, and thought, I can have a cigarette once in a while. And then I had another cigarette, and a week later I was buying a pack of cigarettes, and a couple days after that my chest began to hurt walking up the stairs, and I realized I had done it all over to myself, and I had to quit a second time. Here I'm physically addicted to nicotine again and have to start the entire process over. So I think that stuck with me, and I realized that was not the route I was going to go with alcohol. But I can understand how someone who has had alcohol in their life to the extent that I did might think that after a certain period of time that you've somehow I don't know, put that dragon in the closet, and that you can bring it out when you want. And I doubt very much that is the case. I know that I will never drink again, and I can't speak for everyone out there, but I I believe that once you put it behind you, it needs to stay there. It's a broken bad habit, and like anything else, once we've moved on to a better method of life, you don't really want to take a step backwards. And I know that I won't be heading down that path again.